Every family has a ghost story. This is mine. I warn you, there will be no apparitions, shadow people, 8-foot demons, nothing like that. Just something a bit, well, weird. I was about 9 at the time, and I wasn't aware of the story until much later. I phoned my dad a couple of days ago just to check I hadn't imagined the whole thing, but he confirmed that this happened. My dad's side of the family are not given to interest in the paranormal or to flights of fancy, which makes me more inclined to believe the following. Anyway, make of it what you will. The only memory I have of the incident is one afternoon. My granny lived close to our school, so my brother and I would go to her house every lunchtime. One day, we arrived to find a Catholic priest in the kitchen. Now, Scotland in the 70s was quite sectarian. Our family were Church of Scotland, so to find a Catholic priest in the kitchen, I couldn't have been more surprised to find the Pope himself and the entire College of Cardinals sitting taking tea with my granny, who, lovely woman that she was not keen on Catholics at all. In the mid-70s, my uncle, actually great-uncle, Wally died. He was a nice man, a staunch member of the Salvation Army who played in the band. He used to buy me a copy of the Beano every week. Like I say, a nice man. You hear these stories of couples who are married a long time where one dies and the other follows soon after. This was the case with Willie's wife, Maggie, who died less than a month later. They had no children, so the job of cleaning their council house fell to the sons of Willie's sister, my granny. One evening after work, my Uncle William went up to Willie and Maggie's house, which was just along the street from my granny. Not long after, he returned to call the next brother in age, my Uncle David, and asked him to come over. Together they went back to Willie and Maggie's house, only to return very soon after. The rest of the story is as told to me by my dad. William had gone to the house initially to go through any paperwork left by his aunt and uncle. He found a box of documents and sat in the bed to go through them. Later he said that he had an uncomfortable feeling, the feeling of being watched from the doorway, but he told himself not to be so daft and that he was imagining things. Not long after he began sifting through the old letters and documents, he heard a noise behind him. He turned to find that the drawer of the dressing table was open. He thought this odd, as he was sure that it hadn't been opened before. He put it down to the fact that maybe vibration from passing vehicles had caused the drawer to open, but it was stiff and only slid back on the drawer runners with some difficulty. Also, the house was on a quiet residential street. There were cars, of course, but no traffic heavy enough to cause any real vibration. He returned to the box of papers only to hear another noise behind him. He turned to find a different drawer of the dressing table open. He didn't have any time to ponder this before, bang, the door to the bathroom slammed shut with force. It was a summer's evening, with no wind to speak of, plus the bathroom window was shut. William was a pragmatist, a member of the Masonic Lodge, and the least likely person to be given flights of paranormal fancy. However, he decided enough was enough and went back to his mother's to phone his brother David. They returned to the house to pick up where William had left off. The first thing they noticed is that the bathroom door, which had slammed shut, was now open. When they entered the bedroom, the box of papers that William had been sifting through was scattered over the floor. William wrote this off, thinking that perhaps he had tipped the box over in his haste to leave. It didn't, however, explain the faint rattling noise that they could now hear. Again, William suggested that it may be the vibration from a passing car causing the windows to rattle. However, it wasn't the windows nor even the drawers that appeared to have a mind of their own. The noise was traced to an old-fashioned washing bowl and jug on a separate dresser. The kind that used to be given as a wedding present in the days when outside toilets were the norm and people bathed in tubs in front of the fire. I suppose this all sounds positively prehistoric to the YouTube generation, but Willie and Maggie had married in the early 1930s, so this wash bowl and jug had probably been very useful in those days. The jug was indeed vibrating, Only slightly, but enough to cause them to pause for thought. What the hell was going on here? Bang! Again the noise of the door being slammed with force. Not the bathroom this time, but the living room door downstairs. Enough was enough. William grabbed the box of papers and the pair hightailed it out of there. My dad isn't sure whose idea the priest was, but it was unlikely to have been that of William. What would his fellow Masons have thought of that? Most likely it was my granny. What the priest did, I have no idea. My dad said he thinks the priest may have gone to have a word with it, whatever it was. Quite what Willie and Maggie, who had both been buried in their Salvation Army uniforms, would have made of a son of the true church, splashing holy water around their marital home will never be known. As for my Catholic hating granny, well, my dad is very much into family history and has found out all manner of interesting things about my forebears. The one that interests me most relates to my granny herself. The man she knew as her father was in fact not her father at all. Her real father had been killed during the Boer War, where she was only about a year old. Her mother, as many women did in those days before the welfare state, married very soon after. My granny's stepfather was Church of Scotland, and that was the religion in which she was brought up. Her real father though? Well, it turns out my granny had been born and baptised a Catholic. My dad believes that she never actually knew this herself. He says he doubts she even knew that the man she called her father was not, or that her real father lies buried in a grave somewhere in South Africa.